1 year later, the Blackout project was nearly finished. Deep beneath Reach Prime, hidden beneath mountains, reinforced by enough security to make an emperor jealous, the weapon sat in its final stages of construction. Engineers moved constantly. Scientists slept beside consoles. Entire teams rotated through shifts around the clock. The project had become legendary, despite nobody officially knowing what it was. The only thing the public knew was that Lord Reach himself inspected it personally every month. And whenever Kenny personally involved himself in something, history usually followed. Elsewhere, time continued moving. The next Eclipse games were now less than 8 years away. Young fighters across the galaxy trained obsessively. Entire academies had formed around preparing future contestants. Some idolized old champions. Others wanted to surpass them. Many still looked toward Kenny Reach as the benchmark. The irony never stopped amusing him. The man who won the most famous Eclipse in history now spent most of his days buried in war reports instead of training for glory.
The war itself had changed too. House Rain had survived longer than anyone expected. Not because they were winning, because they were adapting. Like a wounded animal refusing to die. Over the past year, they had successfully struck 2 worlds beyond Reach's defensive perimeter. Neither belonged to Kenny. Neither could be reinforced in time. Both were neutral worlds. Both were destroyed. Millions died. The galaxy watched in horror. Again, it gave House Rain a temporary resurgence, a comeback. Not militarily, psychologically. People started wondering if Reach could actually finish the war. People started asking whether House Rain might survive. Kenny never answered those questions publicly. Privately. He hated them, because every day House Rain existed meant more innocent people died. That thought sat heavily in his mind as he studied the newest intelligence reports. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. The reports filled the war room. Celine, Lyra, Pines, Darius, all present. A holographic map rotated above the table. Several red markers flashed. Darius frowned immediately. They're moving. The old warrior enlarged the display. Fleet signatures, transport signatures, supply movements, military staging. Everything pointed toward one conclusion. An attack. A major one. The room became silent. Kenny studied the route, then blinked. A farming world. Not a major industrial hub. Not a military hub. Not even politically important. Just farmland. Millions of hectares dedicated to livestock and food production. One of the quietest planets under Reach control. The kind of world nobody talked about. Pines leaned back. That's weird. Lyra nodded. Very. Celine folded her arms. They think it's weak. Kenny shook his head. No. Everyone looked at him. The ruler of Reach narrowed his eyes. I think it's weak. The realization spread instantly. The target wasn't random. House Rain believed Kenny's attention would be elsewhere. The problem was, they were wrong. Hours later, Kenny stood aboard a military carrier descending toward the agricultural world. The planet was beautiful. Rolling fields, open skies, vast grazing lands, entire continents devoted to feeding billions. Simple, peaceful, worth protecting. Which was why Kenny personally came. The defensive preparations happened quickly. Orbital stations activated, ground forces mobilized, civilian shelters opened. By nightfall, the planet was ready. Then the enemy arrived. 1 million soldiers. The invasion fleet burst from hyperspace with almost no warning. Dropships immediately entered atmosphere. Thousands, tens of thousands. The sky filled with fire. Kenny watched from a command platform. The scale alone was impressive. 1 million troops, enough to conquer smaller empires. Then they landed, and everything went wrong for them. Reach had prepared. The moment the first invasion waves touched ground, they encountered fortified kill zones, defensive artillery, anti-air batteries, drone swarms, elite Reach infantry. The slaughter began immediately. The invaders pushed forward anyway. For hours, the battle raged across farmland. Fields became battlefields. Pastures became trenches. Entire valleys transformed into war zones. The Reach defenders fought like demons because they weren't defending cities. They weren't defending resources. They were defending home. The casualty numbers became absurd. 1 million attackers slowly became 800,000, then 600,000. Then 4. Every kilometer cost House Rain dearly. By sunset, the invasion had effectively collapsed. The survivors attempted withdrawal. Then something unexpected happened. A signal appeared. An enemy commander, a battlefield leader, someone important. Kenny immediately recognized him, Cassian, the founder of House Rain's military legacy, the grandfather, the legend, the old monster. The battlefield cameras zoomed in. Several Reach officers immediately noticed something. Cassian looked younger, not young, younger, healthier, stronger. His movements looked wrong, too quick, too fluid, too powerful. The reports about the drug suddenly made sense. Darius saw it too. The old warrior's expression darkened. The compound. Kenny nodded. The synthetic dawn fruit project. Whatever they'd created, they were using it. Cassian stood atop a ruined transport, sword drawn, the famous Rain blade, the same bloodline weapon that had appeared throughout history, the same sword Kenny once kicked back at his father during the Eclipse games. The old warrior pointed it directly toward him, a challenge, personal. Kenny smiled, then stepped forward. The battlefield seemed to pause, both armies watching, both sides understanding what they were witnessing. History. Kenny drew his daggers. The black metals shimmered. Cassian laughed. "You've grown." Kenny rolled his shoulders. "So have you." Then they collided. The first strike shook the ground. Sword against dagger. Steel screamed. The second strike came immediately. Then the third. Then the fourth. Cassian was fast. Far faster than a man his age should have been. The compound worked. That much became obvious instantly. He moved like someone decades younger. Strong. Experienced. Deadly. The old warrior fought with the confidence of someone who'd survived countless wars. The famous sword carved through the air repeatedly. Kenny barely avoided several killing blows. The surrounding soldiers backed away. Neither side dared interfere. The duel intensified. Minutes passed. Dust rose around them. Metal clashed endlessly. Cassian scored a shallow cut across Kenny's shoulder. The old warrior smiled, then immediately regretted it. Kenny adapted. The same way he always did. The same way he had in Eclipse. The same way he had throughout the war. Faster, smarter, more aggressive. The tide shifted. Cassian noticed. Too late. One dagger slipped inside his guard. The old warrior twisted away. Not fast enough. The blade removed his left eye. Blood exploded across the battlefield. Cassian staggered, roaring in pain. The Reach soldiers cheered. The old warrior immediately retaliated. Wild, angry, desperate. Kenny met him head on, then struck again. The second dagger flashed. Cassian's sword arm disappeared, completely severed. The famous blade crashed into the dirt. Silence spread. Both armies stared. The impossible had happened. Cassian Rain, the untouchable legend, the monster, the founder, had lost. The old warrior fell to one knee. Blood poured from the wounds. Kenny stepped forward, ready to finish it. Then engines roared overhead. A retreat shuttle, the last surviving extraction craft. House Rain soldiers surged forward desperately, buying seconds, just seconds, but enough. Cassian stumbled backward, dragged by his remaining troops. The shuttle descended, weapons firing, smoke everywhere, chaos. Kenny killed dozens trying to stop them. Not enough. The old warrior reached the ramp, half-blind, missing an arm, bleeding heavily, yet somehow still alive. The shuttle launched. The engines screamed. The craft climbed toward orbit, escaping. Kenny stood motionless, watching. Around him, the battlefield slowly quieted. The invasion had failed. Completely. Nearly 1 million attackers dead. The defenders victorious. Yet Kenny felt no satisfaction, only frustration, because Cassian had survived. The shuttle became smaller, smaller, then vanished into the clouds. Kenny stood alone in the ruined battlefield, watching the last enemy ship disappear, and knowing that somewhere aboard that retreating vessel, House Rain had just suffered its most personal defeat yet.